Yes, I'm sure I want to start the stream. Okay, gotta wait till all the lights go green. There it is. We should be live. Yes, we are. The connection's coming through. Camera, we gonna start this early? We gonna focus or what? We're gonna focus or what? Oh boy, this is what we got to put up with for the rest of the stream. What's going on, y'all? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, this is live. We're gonna get right into it. This is part two of what is making America not just fat, not just even really fat, but making America really, really fat. And there is multiple things at work. It isn't the work of all just one thing. I thought I'd be able to kind of attack everything in one stream, but that was the first stream. It ended up going a lot longer, and I've decided to just put all four in each stream. We're not going to waste any time. The second thing that's making America really fat, or actually, let's talk about first what number one was. There's the camera. Finally, what's up? What's up? What's up, guys? Come on in. Come on in. Where you're coming in from, where you're watching from. The first thing that made America really fat was bread. All things considered, the conventionalness, if I can make that word up, of bread in terms of how we make it and process it, and then to the sheer quantity in which we consume it, I would probably bank on saying that bread is the number one most fattening food item in America, right? And I can only speak for America, that's where I'm from, but I'm pretty sure it's fattening up a whole bunch of countries when it's made in the way that we make it. But somewhere in the Bible it says that bread, a man shall not live on bread alone. And I say, America shall not get fat off bread alone. So there must be something else contributing to it. So, no, it isn't just what we eat or the quality of what we eat. I think it also, number two, is going to be physical inactivity. Physical inactivity is number two. All right, let's get right on into it. What's up? What's up? I always got to make sure like it's live. I've started this stream. I've started streaming maybe two times before where I was talking for like a minute straight and then realized nothing was on. Like just talking to the mic. What's up? Happy Saturday. What's up, Eds of the South? Yeah, you guessed it. Sedentary lifestyle. There it is. Thank you, Cynthia Dreamer from Wyoming. That's what's up. Where you guys watching from? Where you guys watching from? And where are you guys watching from, and what is your town known for? Where are you guys watching from, and what is your town known for? It's no secret. Yes, we're getting fatter, just as we suspected. We are getting fatter. It's no secret. Thanks, Naomi. Good to know that I'm actually live. We are getting fatter. Yes, we are getting fatter. So when we're looking at this, and we talked about this a little bit in the first stream, so we're not going to hash over it too much, but oh, that's awesome stuff. We're not going to hash over it too much, but what I wanted to talk about here is just how much we are increasing, and it's almost nearly at an exponential rate, right? It's getting worse at a quicker rate than ever before, and we're just getting fatter and fatter. And how do you know that this is fat? How do you know we're not getting bigger in muscle, right? And what if we're just getting stronger and stronger, and we're just overbearing on our skills, or we're just packing on muscle? Well, one, common sense will probably tell you that that's not the case. But then number two, we talk about BMI a lot because it's easy to quantify or measure an entire population using BMI. But there's a problem with BMI. And we talked about this in the first stream, so we won't go over too much here, but I made a mistake in the first stream. I classified The Rock as overweight, but I was actually looking at the wrong scale. If you guys are here, I remember having to switch out the scale because it had something to do with the numbers were just off. And I was mindlessly looking at it. And when I put his measurements in, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's overweight. That's why everybody brings him up. But no, they bring him up because The Rock is obese. He's classified as obese. But this is what I want us to understand is that this is an outlier, right? This is an outlier. The Rock is an outlier. He is far from the typical American. He's far from the typical member of just about any population. And he's not the only guy that's over 6 feet, significantly over 6 feet, and heavy set, right? So there are a lot of people that I'm sure that qualify as obese, but aren't necessarily unhealthy, right? So when we're looking at this scale here, what I want us to get a grip of, when I ask the question, are we really getting fatter? The reason the answer is yes is because you can't misqualify that many people. Specifically looking at obese, overweight. Yes, you could have some people that are overweight, and certainly be healthy from a medical standpoint. But when we're looking at the line of obesity, these are people that are wide in the waistline. We're talking about people that got those handles, right? And I'm not talking about handlebars. I'm talking about love handles. You understand what I'm saying? What's up? What's up? What's up, Eli? Shut up. Did the guy who invented sliced bread fattening up the entire world, is he from Iowa? Well, I guess he just made sliced bread more convenient. I probably won't say he's the person that fought for fattening up the world. What's up, Serena? Thanks for joining in. Where are you guys watching from? And where you guys watching from? And what is your town known for? Facts, Michael. Good to see you guys in here. You can't outrun a bad diet. That's what Michael said. Depends on how fast you're running. I'm just kidding. Process garbage in, garbage out. You said it. You said it. Oh, it's so dope to see you guys in here. If you're joining in, say where you are from and what is your town known for. It helps me with my geography, being a guy from the south side of Chicago, not knowing much of the world. My sister just traveled to Greece actually. And she's studying anthropology out there. So maybe I should be picking her brain about some of these things because I don't want to say I'm uncultured. I'm cultured. You can only care about so much if you guys know what I mean. Like you can only care about what's in proximity and there's just so many things to know about and learn about nowadays. Like you open your phone and the subject that you can get into through scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, like it's just too much. I got to the point to where I just want a simple life. I decided to be intentional about what I take in. Like I just want to care about what I care about. And that is this community. I like basketball. I like track and field. I'm keeping up with the Olympics when they get started. Stuff like that. But let's keep this thing rolling. Yes, we are getting fatter. So everything is increasing here. Overweight, even though you can misqualify some people, and we're actually on a downturn right now, but obesity is going up. Severe obesity is going up. And the whole point here is that you can't muscularize yourself into severe obesity. You probably can muscularize yourself as someone that is like The Rock. You can do that and actually get into the obese category, right? But I do want to make a point that we aren't seeing the increases in the scale because we are getting stronger. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's what I wanted to do. Can I do this real quick? I can't. This is a privilege right here. You guys want to see this? This is one of the coolest things in the world to me. This is what makes me, as a teacher, this is what lights me up. This is what lights up my little teacher heart. You ready for this? Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Boom. Let's see. Watch this. Drawing. Like a little whiteboard. I get why teachers stay in school for 20 years and 20, 30, 40 years and don't retire. It's like, because the power of drawing on whiteboards, it feels good. I don't know. Maybe is that a teacher thing? Any teachers in the chat? Adversity. Yo, yo, yo. What's up? What's up? Mr. Bob, what's going on? Dublin, California. What's up? What's up? Hey, thanks for joining in, guys. Where are you guys watching from currently? And what is your town known for? Yeah. Let's keep the thing rolling. So I'm excited to talk about this. So I have revealed number 2. It is physical inactivity. This stream is about physical inactivity, the lack of exercise, the lack of motion. Exercise is different than physical activity definitionally. Sure, if you want to say that like exercise is structured, it's planned, it's intentional. Physical activity is simply moving, right? Everything, all motion qualifies as physical activity. So that's what we're going to be really getting into the nuance of. And the reason this is a fun conversation for me is those that don't know, my background is in exercise science. So that's what I studied in college before I became more passionate about just health and wanted to expand that. Exercise science was basically my bread and butter. I should say my foundation, right? That's where I kind of built my ground. And I'm looking to learn more and more about nutrition nowadays, molecularly speaking, and on a macro level when it comes to just how we even make things. Like, how does bread come to exist, right? How does soybean oil come to exist? Like learning the process of how foods are made, but then their molecular structure, and all those things. So this is me. This is me. Right out of college, I went to Western Illinois University. Right out of college, I was an intern at a place called Fit Code here in Chicago. Fit Code is the greatest gym in the world. They have two locations in Chicago. They're the greatest gym in the world for multiple reasons. One, I was the coach. All right, that's obviously number one. Number two is that the community was actually incredible. There's nothing negative I could say about my 2 to 3 year stint of going there. But I went there right after college, and I was a fitness instructor. Um, these are some pictures of the Fit Fam. If you guys if you guys are looking for Illinois, there's no noise in Illinois. I see you, Methero. A mother of cats. I see you. You know how you guys? I'm gonna make fun of somebody. My mom is from Chicago. She pronounces Illinois as Illinois. It doesn't matter how serious of a conversation we're having. As soon as she pronounces our state like that, I stop her. I'm like, Ma, take that noise out. Take out the S. It's silent. Illinois, right? We don't call Arkansas Arkansas. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it right. Oh, you're from Southwestern Illinois. That's what's up. That's what's up, mother cats. Cool. Yeah, that's exactly right, Jake. And we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about the nuance, but I just wanted to show off this gym and show off where I came from, where I got my humble beginnings. Before I transitioned into doing no lab core required and content basically full time, this is where I was. This is where I was with my family. And what's interesting about this is because my time here, I really got an understanding of the mindset of people that go into a gym. You have a range of different perspectives, a range of different goals, but essentially there is a very simple beauty of human motivation, and it tends to rely on others more than we realize. So I did a lot of intake calls for people that were interested in the gym as well. And what you come to find out is that a lot of the goals, they kind of start off on this surface vanity level, but once you start asking deeper questions and you get a deeper understanding of a person's why, it's almost always tethered to their family, wanting to be around for their kids, wanting to be around to see their grandchildren and actually be able to play with their grandchildren and not just be watching them, to be able to have the lungs, the capacity, the stamina to actually be around with your family in good health, right? You don't want to be a burden, right? I got to ask these deeper questions, and it's really inspiring for sure, but for two, it really has it really gives you a stake of the mindset behind somebody that's actually showing up consistently. So this picture here at the bottom right, these are actually some of the most consistent people. I've been removed from the gym for a few months now, but if I go back, I can probably run into these same exact faces. And you wonder what has somebody drive to that level of consistency, and it really is they understand their deeper why. And we're going to talk a whole lot. I'm excited for talking about the physical inactivity, and we're going to talk about more of the nuance and stuff. But um, yeah, you start to understand people's why, and that is what can help build that consistency. So when I say nuance, I absolutely mean it. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? We're talking about physical activity. This is it right here. So is physical inactivity actually making us fat? Uh, so think about everything that's automated, right? We have automated cars to a degree, if you can afford it. We have vacuum cleaners. We can have our dinner delivered, right? We can have DoorDash. We got Uber Eats. That just negates grocery shopping. That negates having to cook as well, right? Being on our feet to cook. You have automated factory machines that take away jobs, take away workers, laborers, take away workers' labor. And then you have WFH. You should know what that is. Working from home. The pandemic laid it on us thick. We have seen a staggering increase in people that work from home. Now, of course, this was a thing prior to the pandemic, but working from home became a thing. I never seen WFH ever before the pandemic. And what is the significance of working from home? Well, it takes out a lot of things. It takes out having to get up and even shower, first off. I mean, as long as your face looks presentable for Zoom, you can stay at your desk and not really have to move at all. Right? So physical activity, what I want us to understand is that it really is within everything that we do, right? with an advancement of technology, we have seen this rising or this decreasing amount of physical activity, right? Even on a very micro scale, you think about the fact that we had to do this when cars first came out. We have to roll the window down like this, you know. You can't really you can't be mad in traffic and then have to do this with your window to yell it out, right? Like you gotta roll it down. Like we don't do that anymore. We just press the button and it takes this little motion right here, this little motion right here. You just press and that window is going down. That is really the difference. So when we say there's less activity, is it really in the margins like that? And that's what I want to talk about, because there is a difference, but is it really because of the advancement of technology? Shout out to LMNT, the sponsor of this stream, or not even this stream, really the channel. I just like supporting them. They aren't technically sponsoring this stream, but they do support the channel and support me in a bunch of ways. And I believe in their product, so I do like to support them and shout them out. Okay, so this is what I really want to talk about. And this is interesting to me, because if you talk about these folks that I have here, back in this gym pic, you talk about the motivation of a person, right? You talk about when we first decide to become healthy, what is actually taking place, right? We talk about addition versus subtraction. So you ever had somebody that was deciding that they are going to get healthy, and it's like this switch flips in their head, and they're like, I am going to go to the gym. That is almost always what happens when somebody decides to get healthy. They decide to make additions to their regimen. But when in reality, I believe the early stages of becoming healthy should have a lot more to do with subtraction. What do I mean by that? Subtracting unhealthy habits, subtracting some of the things that we eat, right? Subtracting, auditing everything that we do and saying, what can we subtract, right? Subtracting unnecessary stress. What can we take away from our life? And then you find that you're able to have a cleaner slate, and you can actually build up and sustainably get into a habit of going to the gym or something like that. But the whole idea is that we kind of intuitively know that we should be moving. We have an intuitive sense that we should be moving. That's why when we start to sit around and we gain that weight, the first thing we think about is, I gotta get moving, right? That's what we think about. Clip that, Naomi. Genie, that's one of my favorite movies. Genie says, Wally is still relevant. And I should pull up a quick picture, but in Wally, if you guys don't remember, they had we're on our way there. They had these people floating around in these glorified shopping carts, essentially, and everything was right there at the reach of an arm, barely a reach of an arm, probably like the lift of a finger. There were robots serving us, serving the people, and they were so into their screen that anytime they kind of were removed from the screen, they actually had like real-time epiphanies. Like Wally is a very foreseeable future for us, right? I don't see why that isn't something that we're already seeing it to a decent degree, right? We do have people that are heavy set, and actually when they're shopping out at a Walmart and they're sitting in the cart, right? We have people that are already foregoing their walking, right? This is totally normal here in Chicago. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. And you think about some of the things that just keeps the screen in front of our face. Now, the advancement of technology does not necessarily, that is not the sole reason that we aren't moving, right? But it is a big part of it. And that explains really the nuance of it all, right? And that's where we're going to get into. So when we think about the modern man versus the classic man, we really want to talk about the difference in the margins, right? So we think about how much more movement the classic man gets, right? Somebody, and when I say man, I mean man and woman. What was going on in the 1800s? What was going on in the 1700s that required a person to move more? Well, we're going to get into that. I got a slide coming up, but think about all those technologies that have disappeared. And let's actually pull that up now so we can get a sense of some of those technologies. check this out. So this is in the description. Number 2, you can actually check that out if you want to follow along. This graph is down there. Well, what we found is that there has been this increase in life expectancy. That solid black line has been the increase in life expectancy. That's a pretty good thing. We want to be on the planet for longer. But what has happened at the same time is this, as we have advanced in technology and come up with more and more things, there's been this increase in overweight and obesity, right? We like to link the two. We like to link the two to as to say that our technology is the reason. And it's we really can't test this. It just makes intuitive sense. We can't really scientifically and sure there is just ridiculous enormous amounts of data that promotes the that talks about the advantages of actually moving and how that affects the body. We're going to actually talk about some of the physiology, some of the most fascinating stuff. But if we talk about the classic versus the modern man, right? And you talk about some of those technologies, the advent of the wheel, right? Things of that nature, like very simple technologies that just take away some of our physical activity. When you talk about that, you really start to realize that it is all in the margins in terms of moving, because we're talking about excluding exercise, right? So excluding exercise, excluding exercise, the person that's the modern man or woman versus the person that's the classic man, just excluding exercise, right? Excluding that structured, intentional physical movement. If we just look at how we're moving throughout our daily outside of out in our daily living, right? To just get simple tasks done like cleaning, washing dishes, right? We have dishwashers now. You have to realize outside of exercise, it really is all in the margins. What's up, Sparky? Good to see you again, man. Great work as always, Johnny. I appreciate that. Sparky with the 2 comes in again with 5. I always say, especially when we hit middle age, it's not what you do to lose weight, it's what you don't do. It's what you don't do, what you don't eat. Absolutely. And to even kind of piggyback off that, you think about you think about how the conversation in health spheres is oftentimes about how to lose weight. The point of really all 4 of the streams we're going to get into, and really why I'm talking about what made America so fat, is because we often want to lose the weight, but we barely talk about or even realize how it got there in the first place, right? So how was the weight gained in the first place? And I want to start to highlight some of those things so we can have smarter strategies around them. And physical inactivity is without a doubt one of them. So let's get into the physiology a little bit. I love this stuff. Again, this is where I got my start. Brody, what's up, my guy? Stacking these videos over the summer for new content for my health classes. Yes, sir. Brody's using the videos in his classroom. Yes, sir. That's so awesome. You got it, Brody. Good to see you, man. Great to see you. Let's keep it rolling. So, whoa. Slow down. This is okay. I gotta preface this video because this is a little rough. This is me. This is an old video. Let's rewind it. This is an old video. And I'm basically talking about the physiology of fat. Now, my old videos are something else, right? I was still learning how to talk on camera, all this other stuff. They're rough to me, probably not as much as to you guys, but to me, they're like, oh, these are rough. But I left them up so you guys can see the growth. But yeah, we're talking about the physiology, and I love getting down to the nitty gritty. How are things made? How is the body handling things? What is actually taking place when we talk about fat, right? When we talk about getting rid of fat. What I want to ask, and what this presentation is where does fat go to die? So let's see what old Johnny has to say about that. Where does fat go to die? Awesome sauce. Thank you, old Johnny. No audio? Oh, come on. No audio, can't hear. All right, let's try that again. That's properties. Oh, okay. Monitor off. Boom. All right, my bad. It should be fixed now. Let's try that again. Somebody let me know once I started if it's coming through. Let's listen to old Johnny. Here you go.
Little fat cells. These fat cells have a type of fat called triglycerides, which our muscles love for energy. So then there's a stimulus for the triglyceride to be carried to the muscle and be burned for energy. And in the muscle, through a bunch of complex chemical reactions, that triglyceride is broken down and burned for energy. And after all of those chemical reactions to make energy, two things are left over, two byproducts, water and carbon dioxide. And you know what we do with carbon dioxide.
Thank you, old Johnny. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys, for letting me know. So this is a very interesting concept. So we have tissue. Our tissue is composed of cells. Our cells are composed of a bunch of organelles and a bunch of other stuff. But when we talk about fat cells, right? So let's just say this is a very simplistic notation of fat in the body. But let's just say this is adipose tissue, right? It's composed of so many little fat droplets. We zoom in, right? And our fat droplets, our fat cells, our adipocytes are full of triglycerides, right? Which is just the actual literal molecule of fat. So we are incredibly zoomed in, and you guys are considered board certified chemists right now because we are looking really closely into a microscope right now. What does this look like on a more accurate scale? Looks like this. Therein Witten, your videos are so well done. I appreciate the work you do so much. Thank you so much. It's so awesome to hear the feedback for the mission. Thank you. I appreciate the 2. Oh, no, sorry. No, the 5. I appreciate the $5 holla. We love old Johnny too. You're being sweet, Pam. Yeah, Chuck. Thanks, old Johnny. Back to new Johnny. What does he have to say? Let's pause for station identification. All right, so what are we looking at here? We're looking at an adipocyte, right? A fat cell. What we have to understand about fat, and this is why it's so fascinating, is there really is a common sense logic when it comes to why the body deals with fat in the first place. Like, why do we even keep putting fat on the body, right? To the point to where we can become morbidly obese, right? For one, we have to understand it's a survival mechanism because fat is actually extremely rich. It's extremely valuable. It's extremely valuable and it provides a lot of energy. Fat, triglycerides, that literal molecule is energy rich. And because of that, it wants to save that energy in the case of severe circumstances like starvation, right? That is a legitimate thing. The body is not concerned about our vanity. The body is concerned about survival. How long can I push this unit to live? And the body's going to do everything it can to make sure of that. And one of the things is just storing leftover energy in a time of serious need. So our body does not care about our waistlines as much as we do. First, we have to understand that. Our bodies do not care about our waistline as much as we do. First, we have to understand that. But this also kind of plays into why fat is hard to get rid of in the first place because it is so rich in energy. It's actually not the first preferred thing to go. Like glucose, I'd much rather get rid of glucose than have to use fat to convert to glucose, right? It'd much rather use glucose than to dig into those fat stores. And this is why losing weight is so hard for a lot of people, is because we kind of are going against that logical system the body has embedded in it, right? Think about how we had tissue in the pandemics. In the pandemic, tissue was extremely valuable. It was not on any shelf, right? It was extremely hard to come by. The inflation of it, the price of it went up, right? And it's because it was becoming scarce. It was becoming scarce, and it's crazy because we had people in freaking out here in Chicago in the back alley selling tissue, and they brought security with them. Two sheets. 2 cents for a sheet, like that's expensive. That's expensive 2-ply. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a very big deal. You know what I'm saying? We were low on tissue and it was rare, and we wanted to stock up on it. In the same way that we wanted to stock up on tissue in the pandemic, the body loves to do so with fat because it is valuable. it is valuable. Sparky with the 10, what's up? So 97 cigarette and coffee was considered a light breakfast. Seen as appetite suppressant, but that benefit is negated by taking 20. Yeah. Until the 1970s, a cigarette and coffee was considered a light breakfast. Nicotine is an appetite suppressant, but that benefit is negated by taking 20 years off your life. Thanks for the 10 out, y'all. I really appreciate that and the input. It's crazy how marketing plays into our health. You have to understand a lot of us really aren't taught legitimate health in school, legitimate life-changing health, grounded health. We have to actually get it from outside places. And no lab coat required. One of the goals is for you guys to get it from people like me, who just dedicate their life to just reading and learning and then being able to share that stuff, right? But just like old Johnny was talking about, in order for us to release this fat, there has to be some particular stimuluses. There has to be stimuli. There has to be particular stimuli for us to release this fat. It's hard to go, right? The body does not want to release it. What we have to understand about where fat goes to die is it actually goes to our muscle. It goes to our muscle. Our muscle is laden with mitochondria. It has a large amount of mitochondria. Reason being is because we need to produce energy, right? We know mitochondria as, say it with me, the powerhouse of the cell. We heard it all throughout grade school, and it's for a reason, because that is where fat goes to die. It actually goes to the mitochondria. The reason why physical activity is so important is because physical activity is the framework in which our fat goes to die, right? That is where we produce our energy. A better way to say it is that our muscles are the framework of our metabolism, right? That is why this is so important. I love images like this. So our mitochondria, and I misspelled it there, boo. Our mitochondria is highly adaptable, right? So our fat cells actually can feed our mitochondria, right? And it's so awesome because depending on the stimulus we provide, our muscles will determine how we are getting rid of our fat, and if we are even getting rid of our fat, right? We can add mitochondria into our muscle by providing certain stimuli, and we also operate under a very simple principle of use it or lose it. And the body runs on that, right? We can deplete our mitochondria if we aren't using it. We can actually deplete our muscle if we aren't using it. Use it or lose it. And it's highly modifiable. There's this thing called mitochondrial biogenesis. Just this big old fancy idea that we can actually increase the amount of mitochondria in our muscles. So this goes for smooth muscle and skeletal muscle. So we can actually change our skeletal muscle mitochondria amount depending on the stimulus that we give it. Our smooth muscle is actually heavily laden with mitochondria as well. Our smooth muscle is the muscle that that contracts on its own. We aren't contracting it on our own volition, right? So you think about some of the things that incorporate smooth muscle. You think about cardiac muscle, right? We aren't in charge of beating our heart, right? Don't want to be in charge of beating my heart. I'd probably fail and die. So we want these things to be automatic. And these things on a very molecular scale are very rich in mitochondria. That means their cells, the cells themselves are rich in multiple mitochondria. That's where fat goes to die. Now, as old Johnny was also letting us know, is that there is a couple byproducts left over. There's a couple byproducts left over when we talk about where fat goes to die. Let's see here. Right here at the end, 2 byproducts left over. Water and carbon dioxide. So these are very simple objects, products, if you will, in the body. And they just go to get breathed out, right? That is the course of fat, right? So let's run through from the top. The body stores fat as energy because it finds its rich and energy denseness valuable. It likes that. It needs that. It's going to want that in the case of starvation. We provide a certain stimulus for this energy to be released. It goes into the muscle, specifically the mitochondria, to be converted into energy. And when that energy is being used up, one of the byproducts is water, the other byproduct being carbon dioxide. That is the course of fat. This is where fat goes to die, is the mitochondria. So you think about this, right? You think about a marathoner, an ultra marathoner. I just Googled ultra marathoners because I just kind of had a hunch that they were going to be some of the more slim people. I'm trying to get us to understand how much common sense goes into the thinking of physical activity and the lack thereof. So an ultra marathoner, we probably wouldn't see many obese ultra marathoners. And we understand that on an intuitive sense because they are using their muscles quite a lot, right? I can look at I could have a conversation with my 5-year-old nephew, like, nephew, why do you think that ultra marathoners are of the slim variety? He's probably gonna be like, "Ah, they're moving all the time. Because he's gonna be like, all that running. That's what he's gonna say. Because of all that running. And it's because they are using their muscles. This is exactly it, right? We think about the marathoner. This is a very extreme example, but we come across the ultra marathoner, then we look at the other end of the spectrum, the other end of the scale. And the person that comes up when you look up the word couch potato, their picture is there. That person is on the other end of the spectrum. And it's not hard to imagine that person being overweight, likely obese. I would like to think that the average American is probably going to fall somewhere in between these two extremes, somewhere in the middle. So you think about the difference of somebody that is running a marathon and they're active and they're doing this on a regular basis. Their muscles don't get don't get long periods of time where they aren't active. And then you think about somebody who just goes to work, they probably work from home and they just watch Netflix after and they're eating whatever they want and they probably aren't doing much of anything in terms of physical activity. Those are two very different extremes, but the difference when it comes to the average American is going to be in the margins. The difference is going to be in the margins. So when we actually talk about what is contributing to the obesity, it's actually an interesting term, and we're going to get into that. But what does some of the science say when it comes to physical activity? This is an opinion piece, if I'm not mistaken. But let's just read this highlighted piece here. Since 1887, food is stored in refrigerators. Since 1900, muscle-derived energy expenditure is saved by the use of cars. And since 2001, people meet friends all over the world via the World Wide Web without investing a single calorie in locomotion. It's a little sassy. Without investing a single calorie in locomotion. So we kind of have to make this assumption that it's the fact that technology is advancing, and that is the reason that we aren't being active, right? And let's take a look at this again, because I thought this was pretty cool. Look at the things above the black line. These things are adding to our life expectancy. These are things that, like vaccinations, these are things that help against a disease, right? These are things that help against some of the more terminal diseases, right? And we look at the things below, and these are the things that have advanced us in terms of making life more convenient, right? With food delivery being all the way over there at the edge, right? Think about how much of a convenience shift that is. The fact that I can open up my phone, right? I'm not standing, I can sit and do this. I'm only moving one muscle right here in my thumb, and I can order and tell somebody to come send my food to me, right? That is such a vast difference when we look at the other end of this periodic scale. If we look at the other end, that is such a vast difference from someone who is going to have to go and get their food, right? Right. We could advance back a little further, maybe in the 1600s. Maybe let's just say that we have to go into the marketplace, right? But before there even was a marketplace, what were we doing then? Well, there was hunting and gathering, right? There is so much more effort being put into having to go get our food, right? For the man and the woman, if we're talking about a two-person old school household, the woman is going to stay local and do a lot of prep work, and the man is going to go out and hunt, right? He's going to go get the grub. And to a decent degree, even after we were hunter and gatherers, that was still the case. The man is going to go to the market. It really depends on the household dynamics, because I have read that the women have gone to the meat markets and they've got the food and stuff. But the whole idea is that there is a lot more prep work going in to making and getting and eating our food relative to where we are now. Even simple inventions like the advent of the wheel, right? It's just so interesting. It's such a fascinating conversation to get into. It still boggles my mind the Human Genome Project was a thing. Yeah, I should make a video about that. So the body hasn't adapted to the modern era. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, when we think about it, when we think about the modern era, um, all of this stuff is new, right? 1900s was yesterday, right? If we're talking about um, adaptability, right? On the scale of adaptability, right? Um, on the scale of on an evolutionary scale, right? And I'm not talking about like deep evolution. I'm talking about like just simple evolutions, like what we were designed to do, right? Just think about it. All of this stuff is pretty new. Sparky with the 5. The show is so helpful and full of great information, which you explain so well that I watched your last show 4 times in a row to absorb it all. Oh, thanks so much. So also, Sparky, on that note, and for everybody else, the shows are now not going to be behind, or the live shows aren't going to be just for the people in the Patreon. So the live show replay, originally the plan was to have it for just the Patreon folks. So this video will go up unlisted, and then I'd throw a link basically up into the Patreon. But I really want this information to go out to as many people as possible. In order to really accomplish that, I can't really throw it in the Patreon, right? And just tell people to go watch it then. It just kind of, that plan just kind of infringes on how I would like information to be accessed, information-based videos of mine to be accessed. So these videos will now go up for everyone when they are majority information-based like these are here. Patreon gets a few other things, more experience-based things, and we talk to each other, and I'm going to keep them updated, just all that other stuff. So if you are interested in Patreon, I do think I have a link below as well for that. But really, Patreon is for people who are looking to have a deeper involvement in the advancement of no lab coat required. That is really the goal. Yeah, Nick, you're exactly right. The body isn't even going to adapt to junk food, right? Not only are we not adapting to what we do now, but think about how weak our adaptations will be, right? Think about, or I should say it this way, think about if we were to adapt to our modern lifestyle, how much weaker of a human we would be, right? Of a human unit we would be. We would be a lot weaker. Our bones would be weaker. Our VO2 max would be worse, right? Like there would be so many things from a metabolic standpoint that would be much worse. Sparky with the 10, blessing me. Sparky coming through. I appreciate that. Well, Professor was comment, just being a bachelor or single girl living on one's own was a good way to keep weight down. Regular meals were more likely in a family situation. In the olden days, regular meals were more likely in the family. Yeah, it's interesting how that works. It's interesting how that works. That's an interesting dynamic. So we didn't talk about this here. Physical inactivity, and this is under number 2 in the show notes if you want to take a look. Physical inactivity is a precursor and a consequence of obesity. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Physical inactivity can lead us up to obesity. But the downside, the other side, the double-edged sword is that obesity in itself is actually one of the reasons we're not moving all that much. You think about how some people are morbidly obese to the point to where it infringes on their ability to move. So obesity really is this double whammy, this double-edged sword that it's a point to you where you don't want to get to because now you're less mobile, you're less flexible, you're less explosive, you're weaker, you're shorter in breath, like you can't, your stamina goes down, right? It infringes on everything that goes along with physical activity. So you really don't want to get to that point of morbidly obese because I coach these people. I used to coach these people and they would come in and I'd have to give them a lot more care. I'd have to give them a lot more assistance and a lot more attention. And I was very happy to do it because to me, I'm happy you're here. Let's start there. You got to this point, that's fine. Let's get you to where you can do the most possible with your limitations, right? So I'd give them things that they can stand on, things that they can sit down on, things that they can hold. And I've seen these people, and it is some of the most discouraging places to be in terms of having your weight get to that point, because it's really hard to come down from something that's so it's really hard to mount to get over that hump, I should say, right? It's really hard to imagine yourself being a smaller, healthier version of yourself when you've ballooned up to that size. It's just hard naturally. It's just hard naturally. Did I miss your question, Card? I missed your question, but I answered it, so I didn't at the same time. Yeah, so we don't want to get to that point, right? And what I want for this stream to be is I also want us to kind of fall in love with moving again, right? Because here's the thing, and I got a little bit more to talk about, but I want us to fall in love with moving again, right? There are so many possible motions, right? I also like looking at these images. I stripped this one off of Google, but look at this, and he's a little sassy. I don't like how he's making his eyes like that. He kind of has an attitude. But these images, outside of being a little disturbing, are so fascinating to me because if you search top to bottom and you just pay attention to the fact that our body is covered in muscle, right? Our body is muscle. If we take and strip the muscle out of the body, we'd probably look like a sack of laundry. It is everywhere from top to bottom, head to toe. We can move so many things. We can do so many dance moves, right? We can lift up in so many different ways. We can stretch in so many different ways. Our muscles have numerous possibilities in terms of range of motion and their capabilities. Yet our most used position is this one right here. Our most used position is this one right here. Sitting down, probably on our phone, probably watching TV. Our most used position is on our butt. Just hours out of the day, we are sitting. Sitting has become the new poison. The dose makes the poison. The father of toxicology, his name escapes me, but he says that the dose makes the poison. What does that mean? That means that the amount of something actually determines its effect. It's nothing wrong with sitting. I'd be a fool to sit here and come against sitting as I'm sitting right now, right? I'd be a fool. We need to sit. The body needs it. The body needs to rest. The body needs to be on its butt, right? Our butt is nice and plump and soft for us to sit on, right? It makes sense. We need to sit on our butt. But the dose makes the poison. We sit too much. It is very simple, intuitive. This whole stream is very intuitive. It's very simple where we're getting into. We sit too much. Mark that, Naomi. Exactly. I want a standing desk very bad, Naomi. I want a standing desk very bad. I'm probably going to do a lot of streams standing if I do get one. But the amount of time I spend at my desk, and we're going to get into what I do to move. I'm excited to talk about that. But the amount of time that I spend at my desk, it prompts me to get up and do stuff because I am keenly aware of the fact that sitting, it just has a way of deflating your body over time. You just turn into pudding. All right. Anybody know the longest I've been? This is a bit of a flex, but I don't want to speak from a lofty position. This is just my reality. The longest I've ever gone without having some form of significant physical activity was about 3 to 4 months. I believe this was my first. I believe this was maybe it was one of my years of college. If not, maybe the pandemic. It may have been the pandemic. And your boy start to seeing a little plump for the first time in my life. I seen a little plump. I was like, oh, these abs don't look as much chiseled as they used to. I was like, oh, something ain't holding up here. Something ain't holding up here. I've been able to be muscular for a long time in my life because I've rarely given myself the opportunity to not move. I always make a point to move, right? And you guys are going to see how simple I keep up with my physical activity just to make sure, because making content, reading research, editing, this is a sedentary job by all means. By every stretch of the imagination, this is a sedentary job. So what can we do about that? Oh, I have so many things we're going to talk about. So many things we're going to talk about. I just realized I'm on this little screen over here in the TV. I didn't change slides. I was just talking from there the whole time. I thought that was funny. Okay. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do to ensure that our fat is going off to die in the mitochondria? What can we do to ensure that the fate of our fat, our unnecessary excess fat, is going off to the mitochondria to die? Right? What can we do in terms of motion? Right? Because this is a nuanced, intricate conversation. There's so many other strings that we could pull on, so many more threads that we can pull on to get an idea of what we could do. But really, if we're just talking about moving, you have to describe, define, and identify your modality of motion. Your modality of motion. I call them motion deposits because when you talk about this, when you talk about the modern man versus the classic man, and this is what I wanted to get at earlier, but I couldn't think of it. When we talk about the margins, I call them movement deposits. So me standing up to go get a glass of water right now, I would call that a movement deposit. It's very straightforward, right? All motion isn't the same, but the sheer move, our muscles are so impactful that the sheer use of them is actually able to transform our metabolism drastically. So of course there's a scale to this. The more we use them, the greater the change, right? So we talk about the classic man that probably had a lot less at his fingertips, right? He couldn't text his wife in the next room over. I know people that do that, that text their family members, right? If you want to go tell your family members something, you have to go and walk and tell them, right? That is a deposit of motion, right? So the advancement of technology, yes, it has a play on our lack of motion. But if we really talk about it on a very practical scale, there is a bit of there is this idea of our movement deposits, right? Like we talked about earlier, the fact that you have to do this to roll your window down. Not even that long ago. I think you had to do this in the freaking 90s, right? We didn't have automated windows until later, right? You had to do that. So that's a movement deposit, right? This is a good muscle workout trying to get my window to roll down. You know what I'm saying? Right? We don't even have to do that anymore. Just there's so like even the fact that just even being a driver, just this little motion right here, 10 and 12, or 10 and 2, just this little motion right here. The fact that we don't even have to do that right now if you got a Tesla, right? And if you even got more money, you can call one of those self-driving cars in California. You just sit in that thing, and that thing is gonna take you to where you need to be. It is crazy. Pandemic bod. You got it, Adaptability. That's exactly what a lot of us have developed. They talk about freshman 15 when you first go to college. It's just because of the access of food, right? Opportunistic voracity, the things that are in front of you that you can eat. But what about what takes place when the pandemic hit? Pandemic 15, right? Just a lot of pandemic pounds, just a lot of opportunity to sit on our butt, and the weight just piles on, right? So what do I do? What do I do? Let me walk you through my day. Shout out Element. Let me take a sip. These are their sparkling cans. Sparkling water. It's just that. It's just that with some electrolytes. I love it so much. This stream, I'm gonna go be active. It's Saturday. I hope you guys are having a great one. But this stream makes me want to go be active, and I can't wait to share some of the things that I have on this. It's gonna get your wheels turning. I really want you guys to get your wheels turning. Exactly, Eli. I might be poor, but I'm fit, and I'm not an economist, but when you look at the numbers, and I see this, I come across this in research all the time, but there is certainly a shift when you look at people that are making more money. They just have smaller waistlines, right? This is for a multitude of reasons, right? But if since we're talking about physical activity, I would say it's probably because they can afford a gym club, right? I think about when I go to downtown Chicago area, and I think about all the people that are riding their bike on the strip that's near the lake. And a lot of these people are of the slim variety. And I just think about the fact that they have access to that, right? They have access to these bikes. They can rent a bike if they want, right? They got the little lift bikes. They can rent a bike if they want, and they have that access. Well, everybody doesn't have that, especially some of the poorer countries, right? Some of the poorer places, since we're talking about America, some of the poorer states in America that doesn't have that access, right? That doesn't have those options. So what can you do? Well, like Eli says, you can be poor and still be fit. And what I'm going to share with you in terms of what I do is one of the things you can do, but you got to want it, right? You got to understand that the consequences that come from not moving. The consequences that come from not moving. So what do I do? I'm an early riser. I get up in the morning, and before 8 a.m., between 5:30 and 8 a.m., sometime between then, I take an 18 to 25-minute walk, right? This usually ends up being just a little over a mile, but I leave my phone behind, I leave my music behind, I just take a nice walk in the morning. It's questionable if the human body is designed for our benefit to throw 200-pound plates in our back, sit down on a squat, and then rise back up repeatedly, right? It's debatable. You can probably make an argument against that if you're really trying academically, but there is no doubt there is without a doubt that the human body is designed to walk, specifically for long distances, right? Let's get a little scientific here. We have different muscle fibers. There is this muscle fiber called type 1. It's a type 1 muscle fiber. It's slow oxidative, right? So what does this mean? This means that it can deal with energy at a slow but efficient pace. And you think about what is a slow, efficient pace? Walking. So where do we find a lot of these type 1 muscle fibers? In our calves, in our legs, the things that thrust one leg in front of the other. And it is fascinating because we are calculated in that area in the sense to say, oh, the body's going to do a whole lot of this, a whole lot of walking. I'm moving my feet right now, one foot in front of the other, a whole lot of walking. Maybe it should be designed to where our slow oxidative muscle fibers are mostly in the legs, right? So walking is without a doubt necessary to not only be healthy, but to actually counteract this physical inactivity, right? So after I walk, I get ready for the day, all this other stuff, and then I get ready to go to my desk, probably for the second time. I go to my desk. And at my desk, again, this is a sedentary job. At my desk, I do what we call a Pomodoro. And some of you guys know what this is. I work for about 33 minutes, and then I take a 5-minute break. During my 5 minutes, I am getting up, I push my chair back, I get away from this desk, I go right here on the floor, and I do some type of exercise, some type of body weight exercise. And I'm looking to invest in some kettlebells, a nice kettlebell set, because there's so many things you can do with kettlebells, but I'm gonna have them lined up here on the side, and I'm just gonna get up from my desk. I get up every 33 minutes, and I do exercise for 5 minutes, back to back to back, very little rest. I get my heart rate rising, right? I might air box, I might do some lunges, I might do some split squats, I'm gonna do some body weight squats, I might do some push-ups, I might plank, right? I can modify my plank. There's so many things I can do. I might do some bear crawls, right? I might do some burpees. I get so tired when I do those burpees, but it's so worth it because when you're doing a burpee, what's so cool about it is that you're going all the way flat on the floor and then you're jumping up into the air. One of the things I used to tell my clients all the time when I was a coach was that I know this is going to tire you out, and I know this sucks, but getting up and down is one of the most important things you're going to need as you age, as you get into those 70s and 80s. You need to be able to get up from the floor. You need to be able to get up from the toilet, right? These are things that are low, right? When you're low to the ground, right? You need to be able to thrust your body up and do whatever it takes to what is a burpee? That question threw me off. Okay, so I almost want to do one. A burpee. Should I do a burpee? Should I show you guys what a burpee is? We're gonna do a burpee. Do a burpee. This is a burpee. Evictus, this is for you. Evictus asked what a burpee is. This is gonna be terrible. Demonstration. Oh god. Okay. What is a burpee? Stuff all over the place. What is the burpee? All right, Coach Johnny makes his return. Coach Johnny makes his return. What is a burpee, my camera? Okay, what is a burpee? A burpee is a very simple motion, and there's a modified version as well. So I'll show you the full version, then I'll show you a modified version. A burpee is applicable for everybody. The burpee is applicable for everybody. Everybody can do a burpee. So here it is. A burpee, let's see. Let's see how best way I can get this. A burpee is simply dropping down to the floor and then getting back up. It's just that simple. That's what a burpee is. Dropping down to the floor. So you go like this, you drop down to the floor, you do a push-up, you get up, and then you jump in the air, right? Modified version, you do a half burpee. You come down, you jump your feet out, you jump your feet in, and then you just stand, you put your hands in the air, right? Jump your feet out, jump your feet in, stand and put your hands in the air. I'll do this for like 30 seconds straight, right? I'll do that for like 30 seconds straight. Get the hoodie, merch shop below in the description. All right. If I don't have any more likes because of that, we're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a problem with this community. I need the like button to shoot up for that. I need the like button to shoot up for that. So yeah, the modified burpee is, and there's an even further. Yeah, you guys got me in coach mode now. You guys got me in coach mode now. Okay, so there's a further there's a further version of the burpee. It's a modified burpee, right? You take steps. You come down like this. You step in, you stand like that. Modified. Boom. Step out, step in, and you stand. And then there's a version where you can have a chair or some elevation to even hold you up, right? You can take steps out, step in, and then you stand like that, right? There's so many burpee variations. Again, when we look at, and you guys got a chance to see the messy studio. Hit the like button. Okay. All right, I'm tired. My heart's racing. I can feel sweat, right? I can feel my electrolytes leaving my body. I replenish them with LMNT. One of the most fascinating things that takes place when I do those little 5-minute bouts of exercise away from my desk, I get up and I almost automatically, without thought, take a sip of water. And it's just interesting how our body has that automatic sense to go like, oh, I'm losing water. Let me go replenish that, because it is absolutely vital. Yes, Darian, you got some blurry burpees. I'm gonna get a better stream camera, but yeah, blurry burpees. Did you guys hear me though? Did you guys hear as I was away from it, like what variations I was calling out? Yeah, Edge of the South. Yeah, we used to do Sally up, Sally down. Bring Sally up, bring Sally down. Ah, yeah. You know what's up. Yeah, that's okay. Awesome. That's good. Squat thrust in the army. Yeah, exactly. But I just did that. My heart rate is up. I feel myself sweating. That's a sign of exertion. And I didn't have any weight. I could have did that in an alley as a homeless man, right? You don't need any budget to do burpees, right? Burpees are budget friendly, right? Is it okay to groan when you do a burpee? Sparky says, is it okay to groan when you do a burpee? When we did burpees in the gym, we're talking about 15 up to 20 people. The groans per minute were, which is just next level. The groans per minute was just next level. All right, I didn't think I'd be doing burpees for this stream. So that is part of what I do. I spend a lot of time at this desk. So from 10 to 2, I take 33 minutes of work. I get away from my desk just to stop the sitting, right? Just to get up, right? Because what you find is that I did it this morning actually because I haven't done much of any planned exercise yet. But what you find is that your body does these little weird things when you're sitting down for too long. You find yourself doing stuff like this. Like these little mini stretches, these little mini bouts of motion, and it's just agitated. That's all it is. It just wants to get up and do a little moving, right? It's kind of hinting you to go and move, you know? And it's actually also stretching some of the overworked muscles, if you will. Like a lot of this has to do with like slouching and then being upright, right? Like we want to be able to dismiss the impact of the strenuous usage of them. So it's like that's part of the reason why we change positions when we're sitting, right? And this is one of the fascinating things that I studied about posture is that you never sit probably for and within an hour's time, you probably change position maybe 3 times, right? Like I can start off slouching, but at some point I'm going to want to lean in. At some point I'm going to want to like sit up a little straighter. At some point I'm going to want to slouch, right? And that's why I don't tell people that like slouching is automatically bad for you. It just depends on what else you're doing, right? Slouching doesn't not sitting up straight doesn't necessarily mean that that slouching is slowly killing you, right? If that makes sense. So after I do my 10 to 2, 33 on, 5 off, Pomodoro, I go ahead and I do at night when I'm getting ready to wind down, I go ahead and I stretch for about 20 minutes. For about 20 minutes. And I try to get mostly my legs, but really with 20 minutes, you end up stretching just about everything. So I stretch, right? Stretching is so important, right? Increasing that range of motion, right? Increasing that flexibility, right? That's so important. Somewhere. I want to Google it. Yeah, I never actually studied why we yawn. I've been saving that because once I feel like once I understand why we yawn, I'm gonna feel enlightened, and I'm just scared of that version of myself. So I'm deliberately avoiding Googling why we yawn therein, just to be honest with you, because it's an absolute mystery, especially when you consider the fact that when one yawns, the someone else does. Monkey see, monkey do. It's like what? Why is this? Humans are some of the most weird. But yeah, I would often yawning is so interesting. It is like you said therein also a point for the body to get more oxygen in because I remember that I used to run track and field and I used to run an 800, and those that ran track, specifically if you did middle distance, you would know how tough that race is. After an 800 you are spent. You just absolutely pushed yourself to the brink. And one of the things I would do before the gun would go off and they would say, on your marks, I'd run up to the line, I'd put my toe by the line, and I take this really deep breath, right? And that is, it makes sense. You want to take as much air in as possible because you're about to use, right? You're about to use that, right? Those glycolytic fibers are about to fire off. You're about to run through all of that. But even prior to the gun, and in preparation during my warm up for a run, I'd be yawning, right? I'd be yawning. Olympians do this all the time. We were just watching the Olympic trials, and a lot of the athletes they're yawning. You can catch them like as they got their Beats headphones in or their Apple headphones on, and they're like yawning as they're like stretching and getting ready to run. But it's like, why do they look tired? No, they're not tired. Their body is gearing up to make sure they have optimal amounts of oxygen. Art makes a scene. What's going on? Glad that you are here. They're in wind. Yeah, that's funny. Says WebMD has a whole page on yawning. I hope it's not cancer. If you want to know if you got cancer, go to Cleveland Clinic, WebMD, or Healthline.com. They'll tell you. They'll tell you. Quick Google search. So yeah, that is my modality of motion, but that is just me, right? Because here's the thing, convenience is our modern day adversary. And for modern day adversaries, we need modern day weapons, right? Nobody is going to show up to a battle or a war in 2024 with a club, a stick, and some open-toed sandals, right? You're going to come with modern day weapons, right? We live in a nuclear time, right? We live in the time with drones and flying stuff and heat-seeking stuff. You're not showing up with a stick and a club, right? In a weak shield, right? You are going to need better weapons, and that is really the idea, the identity that I take on. It's okay for me to inconvenience myself and get up from my desk during my Pomodoro and go take a 5-minute break and exercise, because I'm telling myself that this is my only weapon in a world that is this convenient. My only weapon is to get up and to make myself and to actually implement some inconvenience, right? It sucks. It sucks heck. It sucks heck. It sucks heck for me to get up from my desk and exercise. I find myself sitting there and I'm like, oh, the timer just went off. I got to get up. And it sucks. I don't want to do it. But that is the inconvenience that we need, right? To a decent degree, because our life doesn't automatically implement the activity that we need, we're going to have to implement that for ourselves, right? So to a decent degree, it should hurt a little bit. To a decent degree, there should be pain. And that's why humans have always pushed to be more convenient, is because inconvenience actually hurts, right? You got to think about why we advanced in technology in the first place. Why did we get to a point to where we made the wheel, and then we had carriages, and then we had automobiles, and now we don't need to be steering the wheel at all? Like, why do we get to that point? Because the more convenient, the easier it is, the more painless it is, right? Our natural instinct as humans is to avoid pain, to take the path of least resistance. So now we're at a point where convenience is so ubiquitous that we have to get to a point to where we implement inconvenience in order to even live long, right? Right? I want to be able to box jump by time I'm 80, right? I want to be able to box jump 15 inches by time I'm 80, just to know that I was taking care of my body throughout my life. But I'm not just going to get there on a whim. I'm going to have to make continual and regular deposits in order to be able to pull that off by the time I'm 80. The only way I could do that is to make these bouts, put on these bouts of movement deposits on my bones and muscles, make regular deposits on my bones and muscles, inconveniencing myself. Thank you, Sparky, for the 5. Clip that, Naomi. In my day, I had to deal with lactic acid. When I ran the 800, you ran the 800, Sparky? That's what's up, man. Thanks for the 5. You kids just don't know how good you have it. Yeah, I second that. I second that. Kids these days, they just don't know how good they have it. Yeah, it is a crazy thing, man. I always say this, and this is why I commend people that run, specifically sprint, and specifically that run track or that have done track at some point in their life, whether you were good or not. I was above average. I was good. I probably wouldn't say great. I probably wouldn't say excellent, but I did run NCAA D1. My 800 time was 157. So take that how you want. But there are people that will never experience what it's like to absolutely spend your body, to absolutely deplete your body of all of its energy, and to run 1 or 2 really hard all out laps on a track and lay on the floor like this. Like, I commend people that understands how that feels, because a lot of people have never pushed themselves to that limit. A lot of people don't have to. A lot of people don't have to, but it is a very unique feeling. It is a very unique experience, and I love track for it. I love track and field for that. And I admire the people that do this at the world's best level. That's why I'm so excited for the Olympics. Now, this is what I want to talk about, because we're not going back to hunters and gatherers, right? Those days are over. And the idea is that since we aren't having to forage and hunt for our food, right, and for our game, the fact that we don't have to fight so hard to eat, to survive, it's paradoxical now. We almost have to fight hard to move to ensure our survival, right? Back then, life just embedded movement. Movement just came with daily living. Now, outside of standing up in the shower, you don't have much of any reason to stand for more than 20 minutes. You can sit on your butt throughout your entire day and get all your work done. Right? So now that movement is not embedded in our daily existence, we have to make that happen for ourselves. Right? And that's why we have to inconvenience ourselves sometimes, right? For modern day adversaries, we need modern day weapons. What are some of our options? What can we do? Mark that, Naomi. Moving works. Moving works. Moving works. Moving works. I'm getting like excited. I got blood going to my brain now. Start the stream off maybe a little slow, but after those burpees, I swear, like I feel like I just feel like moving. I just feel like moving. Camera, wake up. What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm giving you 5 seconds or I'm coming after you. You're gonna get replaced. You're gonna get replaced. Stop playing with me. Hey. I love this camera. It's brought me so far. I'm sorry. All right. Yeah. Exactly, Naomi. She says, as a farmer, I ain't got no choice but to move. If you guys ever have some spare time, just Google the change in farmer, the change in numbers of the change in number of farmers that there are. I think it was anecdotal for me. I came across it and somebody said that basically about less than 2% of the population are still farmers. And this is upwards of, I don't even want to be wrong here because I could be. But some time ago, it was upwards of 30% of the population, right? But just because of the amount of automation and the amount of things that the amount of machines, right? And the fact that we just don't need as many workers in the field, right? We don't need that. I got distracted. I was reading chat. Sorry. We don't need that amount of. We don't need as many farmers anymore. We don't need as many people toiling in the field, right? We don't need that anymore. We have this automation. But we look back and farmers were jacked. Farmers were jacked back in the day, right? Farmers were jacked. World's sexiest men, farmers of the 16th century, right there, jacked, beautiful, right? I have a question about fasted running. I run marathons fasted through my neighborhood, and everyone asks how I don't get tired. I want to know too. Yeah, that's interesting. So I run marathons fasted through my neighborhood. So we're talking 20 plus marathons. We're talking legit 20 plus mile marathons. We're talking legitimate marathons. Everyone asks how I don't get tired. I want to know too. There could be a multitude of reasons. This is a fascinating question because marathons is a bit long. Maybe. Oh, yes, Samantha, she says yes. Interesting. Interesting. It does certainly have something to do with the rationing of the energy that you do have. So I'm curious of your body composition. But then there is a huge metabolic adaptability component, right? I was just reading up on something that we call the metabolic, BMR, basal metabolic rate, right? 40 miles. Wow, that's significant. Our basal metabolic rate is essentially like, what are we doing? How much energy are we consuming or producing? If we just, exclude everything out from exercise and physical activity and all these other things, like what are we spending just for our body to exist on a daily basis, right? That's essentially a primitive definition of our BMR, basal metabolic rate. It tends to be higher for men, but it's a rate of energy being spent essentially. And what's interesting is that how modifiable this is. So for Samantha, someone who runs this many miles and doesn't feel tired, I'd be curious of the reason why. I'd be curious of the reason why. I wouldn't be able to devote it to one thing without more information. But actually, that was actually one of the points I want to bring up in this live stream. So let me see here. I just pulled it up. Um, so you say you do a fasting. One of the things that I learned, I actually took this note and I read it. I wrote it down not too long ago. It says fasting or very low caloric intake depresses total metabolic rate and results in a slower breakdown of body reserves. So, with this being a fact, I'm just curious, with you being in a fasted state, what are we using? You know what I mean? If you guys are, if you're really interested, Samantha, I would urge you to read uh, The Great Cardio Myth by Craig Ballantyne. This is one of the first books on exercise I ever read, and it absolutely blew my mind on cardio and how we got it all wrong. Um, but I am very interested in that actually. I want to dive into that deeper. You definitely just got my wheels spinning. Um, I'm curious in how your body is partitioning energy in that state. Significant mileage, right? Um, and that is a feat, so that is pretty cool. I average out 20 miles a day. Samantha, who are you? Are you an Olympian? Yo, Samantha's about to compete in like 3 weeks, y'all. She's an Olympian. That's quite a feat. And now I'm starting to get a little bit more information. I think your body is just used to it. We're that adaptable. We really are that adaptable. Samantha, I want you to since we're stuck on this right now, Samantha. I want you to tell us, do you experience runner's high? I'd love to talk about runner's high really quickly. Do you experience runner's high? Yes. Okay, tell me how it feels. I've never ran more than 9 miles consecutively, I'd say, but that's because I was a mid-distance runner. But tell me how runner's high feels, and then I'll maybe be able to explain a little bit of the physiology behind it. And then I'll give you a sec for you to type it up. Take your time. I won't give you all the pressure of that. Running gets easier after the first few miles. Yes, yes, and that is because of what we call the second wind. But this actually is just a partitioning of energy in the body. And I'm rusty. I got to get back into the lab and really study deep on these things. But that is one of the most fascinating concepts. Is how our body essentially gets to a point to where it's like, oh, we're moving. Why are we moving? What's going on? To a point where it's like, okay, we're moving. All right, let's go, let's go. And there's this partitioning of energy that takes place, and there's this shift that allows us to last longer. And I'm curious if that's what's taking place with Samantha and the fact that she's able to run these miles in a fasted state. Walking 2 miles every day doesn't have much impact, but walking 5 miles a day keeps me in shape, no problem. If I ran instead at my age, I wouldn't be able to recover in time to do it every day. Interesting, Sparky. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, again, it has a lot to do with the adaptability of the body. It has a lot to do with the adaptability of the body. But yeah, my wheels are absolutely turning from that. I'm going to be looking at. Thank you so much, by the way, Sparky, for the 10. Thank you so much for your support, man, and your input, valuable input, along with the support. But I wanted to get into some things and why moving works. So we can't move too much, right? Samantha just gave us a good example of why you can't move too much. I remember being uh, when I'm a group fitness instructor. Um, Ideally you would have a coach for the morning and then there's a totally separate coach that comes in for the evening, but sometimes the second coach can't make it or for whatever reason you're going to have to cover. So I went from coaching just one morning session to the evening sessions as well, right? And that is probably in the morning, that's about 5 hours straight of coaching classes, right? And coaching, you're yelling, you're on your feet the entire time, you are you're exercising, obviously you're stretching, you're demonstrating. It spins you, but I could sometimes do this in a fasted state. I did this in a fasted state a lot of the times, and you don't necessarily feel tired, right? So I'm curious of the I want to read up so I can give you guys the legitimate science, but I'm curious of what that actually is, right? And why that works. Because the first thing that comes to mind is like starvation mode, where the body actually starts to slow down your basal metabolic rate, and maybe that disqualifies the feeling of because for me it was hunger. Maybe that disqualifies the feeling of hunger because um Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to ramble on it. I want to read up on that though. I'm very curious. But all I know is when I would be in the morning, coach in the morning, then I then coach in the evening, I would feel great afterwards, right? You feel accomplished. Samantha says runner's high is like a head high. Yeah, right. You want to say with the release of those endorphins, right? Those good hormones. But I would look down at my watch. Typically on a day where I just coach the morning sessions, I'd probably get over 10,000 steps. But if I were to do that that double, that morning and that evening shift, I'm looking at my watch, I'm getting over 20,000 steps, right? And it feels, you get this incredible sense of accomplishment. But what one thing you realize is that I am not dying. I'm not on my knees. I'm not asking, oh, Lord, help me. I just worked all day. I'm so like, no, it's interesting. You actually spent your body. Sure, you worked very hard, but you realize there really is no such thing as moving too much. It's non existent, given that you are eating, fueling your body, giving your body the proper electrolytes that it needs, right? There is really no limit that we need to be worrying about. But we can absolutely sit too much. We can absolutely sit too much, right? So let's talk about some more things here. What are our options? Number one, walking. We talked about walking, advantageous. Just run through this list, keep it quick. Walking in and out. Do you have an opinion on the recent passing of Dr. John McDougall at 77? Who is that? Do I know him? Let me Google him. What's the significance? Thank you so much for the donation, by the way. '77. What did he do? What did he write? McDougall, author. I may know him by his books, but not his name. What did he write? No, I don't know his books either. He passed at 77. I'll have to look into that. So but to answer your question, thank you for the five, but no, I would not have an opinion. I'm not sure. Not really sure. And slow thyroid fasting might be easier. Should try it most see. It looks like he was low fat diet. Uh, girl of animation. Go advanced low fat diet. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm always curious of who vegan, starchy vegetables. Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay. Was he a vegan? Was John McDowell a plant-based guy? Like did he advocate for meat at all? Very curious if anybody knows. I've never heard of him. McDowell. My city boy is showing. Never mind. Dancing is number two. Yeah, you guys let me know. Dancing is number two. And I believe dancing is an absolute gift for the humans. Is an absolute gift for humans. It is very simple. I was just making eggs, toast, and warming up some leftover chicken before I started this stream. And I had some house music going, and I was absolutely just dancing. And I just caught myself like, bro, you are moving right now. What are you doing? And it's automatic, right? We're designed to move, man. We're designed to move. And I think about the movement deposits, right? This is what this is about. We're talking about movement deposits. What can we do? Dancing is one of them, right? There's a formal class you could take, but also it's totally free. Throw some music on. Take 15 to 20 minutes to take it, load off, and just move your body and dance to the rhythm, right? That is a real thing that we can do. That's a real strategy because what we're talking about is modalities of motion. And that's what I want you guys to incorporate. If you don't already have one, right? I do understand a lot of us are sedentary. I do want you to have a modality of motion to combat that inconvenience that is so ever present. Playing with our kids. I have 4 kids. That's not true. I don't have any kids. But I think about today's children. I think about how I have 6 nieces and nephews. Um, I think about how they aren't moving. as much as kids back in the day, of the olden days. They just don't move as much because we slap that iPad in their face and they are locked in. They don't have to worry about movement. But I think that's a double whammy on both the parent and the kid, because what ends up happening is that I think kids, just like dancing in a sense, is one of the greatest gifts. Not only gifts, but I think it could add one of the greatest benefits to our movement deposits as adults. If you've ever ran around, I've ran around my nieces and nephews. If you ever run around with your kids, you can only last for so long, right? They're high on that HGH. They got that human growth hormone, levels above what we have as adults, right? Um, but this is a strategy. If you have younger kids, you can use this to add into your movement deposits. You can actually play with them, follow them around in the park, right? Stand up, move, go down to the floor with them and engage with them and play with their toys with them, right? Um, we have gotten to the point to where our work has gotten away. Like, there's so many other problems. I'm not going to tell people how to parent, but I do think that kids can be a viable strategy to add movement deposits into our life. We end up hurting and hindering ourselves not only by giving them the iPad and then enabling them to be inactive, but that then in turn enables us to be inactive because we lose the opportunity to play with them and to be active, right? So I think playing with kids is a viable, legitimate strategy to add some movement deposits into our lives. And keep kids off TikTok, Plump says. Her words, not mine. But I agree. I agree. Play as an adult, recreational. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America. That's what they say, but I never Googled it. Tennis, rec leagues. I used to coach a guy who did hockey. There's so many things. Recreational soccer. You better warm up. Be careful. Tear your ACL. Even more so with basketball. You better warm up with basketball. Warm up and play basketball. Volleyball is so fun. Badminton is an absolute blast. There are so many things we could do. A lot of these things we can get ourselves some cheap equipment, or get yourself some good equipment. But it'll last you. And you could play this stuff in the backyard, right? With your significant other, your kids, invite somebody over, right? These are things that I'm talking about incorporating in so that we can add more, increase our arsenal of movement deposit options and have a modality of motion. Sparky with the 10, thank you so much. Having a dog to walk, I didn't even think of that. I never had a dog. Having a dog to walk, especially a husky, as they love walking long distances, can help to motivate people to walk regularly, since most dogs will insist on being walked. Absolutely. If you have a dog, don't just let that sucker run in the backyard by opening up the back door. Go take that sucker on the walk. Sorry for calling your dog a sucker, but that is a motion. That is a motion deposit. Walking our dogs. This video is not necessarily about weight loss, but about building and protecting from the loss of muscle mass by intentional moving deposits. You said it. You said it, Pam. Yeah, walking your dog is great. Yeah, the whole idea really is to get understanding, right, of what physical activity has done to us, right? It's made us very fat. It's made us very, very fat. Now we're just talking about what can we do to undo that, right? To a decent degree, right? But more so because we're not talking about, like Pam said, we're not talking about weight loss, because I'd be going off the walls right now talking about all types of other stuff. But I was just trying to get us the idea of, like, what are some of the things we can incorporate that are sustainable, that aren't miserable, that can get us to move a little bit more. Yoga. Somebody mentioned yoga earlier. Yoga's dope, right? It's not strenuous. It has ridiculously awesome evidence-based benefits because you're stretching, you're breathing, you're releasing stress. And it's just one of those things where your intentionality goes a long way. Spend some time stretching, putting yourself in positions, increasing your mobility. Yoga on a practical level, if you take the spirituality out of it, is incredible for the body. Is incredible for the body. Pomodoro, that's the strategy that I use that I was just talking about earlier. That is, if you work from home, I say it is the best thing that you can do. And that is basically you work for about 30 minutes, take a 5-minute break, get up from your chair and do some moving. Cook, grocery shop, etc. This is just about reintroducing the things into your life that we maybe forfeited, that we know can add those movement deposits, right? So there's a lot of us that forfeit cooking. I have a lot of friends, right? My generation is the generation that stopped cooking, right? I have a lot of friends that DoorDash and Uber Eats, they have no interest in cooking at all. And not only is cooking advantageous for our waistlines on a sense of what we're cooking, like our actual food composition, but the actual action of just standing up and adding that as a movement deposit. Again, this is not about food, but it's about reintroducing those things that we may have forfeited, right? Grocery shopping. I got a lot of friends that do Instacart, and I'm not talking about delivering the Instacarts. I'm talking about getting their groceries delivered. You know what I'm saying? They are having people grocery shop for them. I was just having a conversation. I wish I knew the person. I would call you out. But I can't remember your name. I can't remember who was with actually. But we were having a conversation and they were just like, I do not grocery shop. No, grocery shopping's not for me. Like, no. What? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I get it. You don't have to. You can afford yourself this in this modern day. We have afforded ourselves the luxury of not having to be in public and not have to deal with people and not have to deal with lines. So why do that if you don't have to? Sure, I get it. But I like knowing what food I get. I like shopping. I like my options when I'm in there. I like interacting with people. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just an extrovert. But I believe that if we're not going to hunt and gather, those days are gone, then maybe we should at least go to the grocery store and gather, right? That's what I believe. That's what I believe. Let's keep this list rolling. High intensity interval training. Vulcan says, man, I love cooking. Yeah, it's a lost art. It's an absolutely lost art. Um, it's an absolutely lost art. If I was not so information based and if this channel wasn't like all health science, I'd probably do like a cooking channel, right? Um, I'd probably do like a cooking channel. Maybe. I could just be talking. High intensity interval training. This is what we focused on back when I was a fitness instructor, right? The whole idea is that you can break this down, right? It's high intensity, so this does not work. You can't walk and call that high intensity, right? This does not work if you are riding a bike, right? Some of the things that you could do for miles on end. You could do this on a bike, probably a stationary bike, crank up the tension, crank up the, what do we call it, resistance, and then really push your legs and call that high intensity. But this does not work if it's not high intensity, right? And this could go in different ways. It could also be moderate intensity to a decent degree, something like maybe jump roping, right? But you think of sled pushing is another thing. But this is a lot of things that we did back when I was a fitness instructor. We focus on a lot of these quick motions because one of the number one things you lose as you age is your ex- explosiveness. You lose that, right? You lose that ability um, over time to be explosive, to move your body quickly, right? You just slow that down. The most effective, hands down, way to perform HIIT is running. Persian said it. HIIT could be done by running or biking in hills. Ooh, up, incline. That's absolutely a great point. Incline hills is where it's at. Yeah, there's nothing to make you feel like, ooh, I just did some work other than HIIT, right? When I get up from my desk and I might do some air box, I might do a few burpees, right? That is HIIT to a decent degree. High intensity interval training. What is, and you guys can look this up. I even have a video or two about interval training because I do believe it is one of those modalities that is, if you're looking for absolute weight loss and you're not just looking to be active, like HIIT is where you want to go because of the cascade of it's like this domino effect of energy reserves being depleted. Your glucose shuttles into the working muscles, and there's almost this huge reset of energy that takes place. It restores your insulin sensitivity, and this is just one of those things that if you do for a few weeks, you're going to see the difference. So high intensity interval training is one of those things where it's like, I can't preach that enough, right? I can't preach that enough. Club gym, like the one I used to coach at out here, Fit Coach Chicago. If you guys are in the Illinois area, by the city, you would benefit from working with people in a social setting, being held accountable. It does wonders for making sure that you show up. And this, over time, obviously plays into your motion deposits. Dogs are much happier when they're walked, even if they're able to run free in a big yard or out in the country, because they feel that they're accomplishing something while bonding with you. Thank you so much, Sparky, for the tin and the input. To piggyback on that, I have a neighbor. I'm going to call them out. Sorry, neighbor. But I see them come out all the time and stand in their yard with their dog, and they're just scrolling on their phone. And I was just, I don't know, just like, man, it would be awesome for not only you, but that dog if you guys just walked, right? He's just standing on your phone, scrolling. And I get it. Dogs are responsibilities, but man, parkour, edge of the side, where are you from? Bringing up parkour. Absolutely. Parkour is actually one of my interests, not to do, but to watch. Parkour is one of the interesting things, and people don't parkour alone. Usually, people are like in a club, and they're able to socialize and do it with you, um, which is one of the benefits of any motion modality of motion. Louisiana, okay, I got you. Yeah, so parkour is definitely one. I love watching people parkour and stuff. Strength training is another, right? You guys see how I put like all the pleasant and easy things first. Now we're getting into, all right, this is gonna hurt a little bit, right? So strength training is the idea of increasing your fitness through resistance, right? That is what strength training is, right? So we do this with dumbbells, we do this with kettlebells, we do this with plates, barbells. There's just so many things we could do to strength train, right? Um, and you don't need a lot of equipment, right? You just need a trusty kettlebell, in my opinion, and then you can upgrade to a heavier one at some point. But I'm telling you, the amount of things I can show you guys with just two kettlebells, it will blow your mind, right? Um, but yeah, strength training is another option. All of these things you can rabbit hole into. I'm trying to keep myself from ranting because I am prone to that. Run clubs. We have one out here in Chicago in the city. It's being promoted. I see it all the time online. The cool thing about run clubs is that a lot of people ain't running. A lot of people ain't running. A lot of folks are kind of concerned, like, oh, I'm a beginner. I've never ran before. I'm like, no, you can walk in a run club, especially the more friendly ones, right? The ones that aren't highly competitive, right? Most run clubs, you can walk, you can jog, you can chat. But the goal is you're out and you're in the sun. It's great for the summer. And you're just enjoying people and you're jogging when you can, walking when you feel like it, but you're being active and you're being social. As you guys can imagine, this is wondrous for not only our body and our waistlines, but for our stress levels as well. It's one of those things that when you see a video of a run club or you see one coming past or running by, you're like, "Ah, I want to do that someday." Like that's what a run club is. It's one of those I'm going to do that someday activities. It is awesome. I praise run clubs. Cardio machines, with a caveat, if that's your thing. I, Johnny, tend to refrain from recommending cardio machines only because of their association with misery. You're in one spot, you're moving, but you aren't going anywhere, and it is just miserable. They're usually in the darkest part of the gym, along the walls, and you're not with everyone else, and you just feel dark. And if you're not entertaining yourself with music, oh yeah, did I spell your wrong? That's the wrong version of your. But if you're not entertaining yourself with music, then it's just like this is just it's dark, it's lonely. Cardio machines are not fun, in my opinion. And that's probably the opinion from most people. But if it is your thing, go for it because it is moving your body. It is moving your body at the end of the day. I love resistance tubes and bands. Yes, plump. Yes. See, there's so many options for us to move. There should be no reason why we can't incorporate some of these things as options in our modality of motion. So if anybody was watching the stream and they perhaps are sedentary and they don't get much of any movement, I urge you for homework. I urge you for homework. Just come up with a thing that you can incorporate throughout your routine of the day. Whether that's a Pomodoro to get away from your desk. You want to commit yourself to a club gym. You want to go out into the sun and maybe lay out a pallet in your yard and do some stretching for 30 minutes or 20 minutes or 15 minutes, right? There's so many things you can do to incorporate and make your modality of motion for yourself as an individual. Is it true that in and out, thank you so much for the 5. Is it true that omega-3s don't get stored as body fat because they're so essential for brain, heart, and eye development? Are there free calories? Let's answer the first question. Is it true that omega-3s don't get stored as body fat? So omega-3s are essential. What does essential mean? Essential just means that our body cannot synthesize it itself. So when we eat an omega-3 fatty acid, and I'm talking about the very literal molecular structure, what is its course and its path? Where does it end up? So it gets into our bloodstream, and then it is used as a item. This is used as an item, usually in the brain. So, like you said, it is essential. So, in our brain, I believe 90% of our omega 3s. I believe 90% of our omega 3s, or 90% of the polyunsaturated fatty acids, sorry, in the brain, are oh no, 90% of the fats in the brain are polyunsaturated fatty acids. 10 to 20% of those are omega-3. So that's, yes, they're necessary, but a lot of the time fat isn't stored from consuming fat, right? So we don't eat fat and then it ends up being stored as fat all the time. Fat is only stimulated and synthesized when we have excess energy, right? So the specific omega-3, it can potentially be converted into a triglyceride, but probably not in the way that we think, right? And I don't want to also make it seem like it's just because it's so special and essential that it's just going straight past the ability to be stored as fat, and then it goes straight to the brain and it's used there, right? You can eat too much of anything and stimulate fat. So I would say that it is not true that they don't get stored as fat. You can overdo just about anything to where you send that stimulus to the body to put this up, right? Put this up, store this as fat, right? But I would probably say 9 times out of 10 in the amounts that we eat omega-3, we shouldn't be worried about fattening anything up. Are there free calories? What do you mean by that? Are there things that we could eat that basically don't influence energy? Absolutely not. The only thing that we're eating that ain't going into our blood and influencing energy, right? If it goes into our blood, it's influencing energy 100%. The only thing that we put in our mouth that isn't influencing our blood is probably fibers, one, and then two would be any vitamin or mineral that our body is saying that we either have enough of already or is modifying to decrease resorption of it. So I probably would not say not resorption, absorption of it. So I probably would not say that there are any free calories. Just about everything we eat is going to influence our energy levels. Hope that answers that question. So yes, cardio machines, if that is your thing. Listen to the podcast while on a stationary. Yeah, your story. And I actually want to double check that real quick. Can I double check I want to double check that omega-3 stat real quick. They are highly used in the brain. We know that for sure. I have notes on that somewhere. Okay. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, so DHA, the terminal fatty acid, right? So DHA is basically the end all be all omega-3 fatty acid, right? When we talk about fatty acids, we're essentially talking about DHA, because that is, we have ALA, then we have EPA, then we have DHA, right? DHA, all of these are essential in a sense, right? Because we could technically make DHA, we can synthesize it if we take in ALA or EPA, right? But it is a very slow conversion, right? So when we talk about omega-3s in the brain, the actual numbers are over 90% of the omega-3s in the brain. DHA makes up over 90% of the omega-3s in the brain. 10 to 20% of its total lipid. That's what those stats were. So I don't know if I said that right first time, but I had that in my notes, so I just referred to them. But 10 to 20% of our brain's total lipid is DHA, which is crazy. So yeah. All righty. Moving works. I hope you guys feel at least a little bit more inspired to move, to get your body in gear, to make those movement deposits. I hope it's coming through clear in terms of what is actually influencing our waistlines here in America, what is actually making us bigger, what is actually making us fatter. I hope we are coming in clear. Bye. Thank you so much. Okay, Eric Brown. Hoping you could comment on the seed oil section of this video, specifically the research claims. I'll put that up in a link. Why not? It would probably be for how long is this video? Exercise scientist critiques Joe Rogan's training, diet, and drug use. Oh yeah, that'll have to be for a different time. But I do have that linked up and saved, so why not return to that at some point? Yeah, so hopefully you guys gained a little bit more insight for this one. I was excited. I bust out some burpees. Leave a like if you have not already. This stream will go up. This is gonna Vern, what's up? What's up? I remember that name. Sorry I was late, but was out walking the dog. We were just talking about that. It's one of the best motions that you can do is simply just walking. Yeah. Okay, you want to ask about that too, Persian? Yeah, okay, maybe I'll check it out. Hey guys, if you guys are in the Patreon, I'm about to start looking at who to collab with for long conversations. So doctors, content creators, so researchers, just whoever is in the sphere that is making noise. I want to sit down and chat with them. So if you are in the Patreon, I'm looking forward to taking in your suggestions so I can just pick people's brains and ask them the hard questions and have conversations and have fun and stuff. So that is awesome. So I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I hope you guys got some value out of this one. Purple hearts in the chat. Purple hearts in the chat. It's in the chapters of the video. Okay. Class would be interesting. Hey, would you guys want me to react to this seed oil thing before we get out of here? I need to see 5 ones. Ones in the chat. If you're interested in the seed oil thing, I bet I can spitball or something off of it if it's something you're interested in. I just don't want to hang you guys up. I know it's Saturday. Let's take a look. Can you guys hear this audio? Probably not. Let me see. Can you guys hear that audio? No audio. Okay, let me give it a shot here. Oh, did you guys see the stream? That's embarrassing. Is there any information on that that shouldn't be seen? No, that's all pretty straightforward. Everybody's seen that. Okay, cool. I'm like, did my password leak or something? Let's talk about seed oil. Let's see what we got here. All right, be patient with me. Here we go. Let's see what we got. Let's see what Joe Rogan and his friend is talking about here. What if we display capture instead? Yeah, why not? Let's try that. Will that work? That's not going to give audio though, is it? You guys can't hear that, can you? Yeah, but I think I did unmute it, but I don't think you can, I still don't think you can hear it. Yeah, yeah, unmuting isn't the problem, it's something else. Let's try that again. I feel like I know what he's going to say. What if we did this? I'm gonna have to screw through it. Screw record this. The heck's going on? No capture. Boom, boom. Okay, there we go. Client. Capture method. Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, that should do the trick. That should do the trick. Oh, boo. Why is it not working? Why is this not working? Somebody tell me how to stream. What do you press? You can hear me. Chosen pissed off. Look at you. Chosen's like, just unmute it. I'm sorry, Chosen. I don't know how to play the audio. It's pretty. Ugh. Usually this works. Yeah, sorry, you see the back end of my stream. Usually this works if I just capture the, anybody familiar with OBS? You just capture the audio, capture the window. Let's try this again. Give me a sec, guys. Video capture device. Application audio. Okay, I found it. We can figure it. Yep, that works. Yep, that'll work. That'll work. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, yep, that's fine. Okay.
Controversial in a small niche community.
All right, you guys can hear that, right? Let's rewind it. The video is gonna be showing right now. I keep showing the back end of my stream. You guys can hear that, right? I can't see the chat, so bear with me. I'm trying to do this. Okay, title's up there. Let's see what he's talking about. You guys can hear that, right? Let me just confirm. Yeah, I can hear the yes. Okay, cool.
And then you get into the more controversial areas of seed oils.
Yeah, I'll just say it right now. Seed oils are not controversial. Seed oils are only controversial in a small niche community of typically extremely right-wing folks that seem to be really upset about seed oils for some reason. No offense to the right wing. Y'all are great. Don't kill me when the revolution happens. Seed oils, no controversy. If you look at the empirical literature, and there's been a lot of it, just go to PubMed and you look at systematic reviews, narrative reviews, meta-analyses, any kind of comprehensive approach, you're going to realize that they've kind of studied this more or less into the ground, and there's not a goddamn thing wrong with seed oils. They're totally fine and totally healthy in most contexts. Now, people will say, well, look, like, McDonald's French fry grease is made of seed oils. Yeah, it is. But it's got a couple other things in there, like trans fats that aren't that great for you. And it's the fact that each thing of fries is 900 calories, and you have to have 2 of them because you can't stop eating. That's the bad part, not the seed oils part. Folks, there is still more video to watch and more fun to be had and more things to learn, I hope.
Interesting. So he's right. He's actually totally right. He's actually totally right. Why is he totally right? Let's talk about it. Why is he totally right? Let's talk about it. I can actually pull up the research he's talking about. I have this on hand. From an evidence-based standpoint, you can actually single out soybean oil, number one seed oil in the world, most consumed seed oil of all time. You can actually single it out, and you could come up with stuff like this. You can come up with stuff like this. Now, this is a research paper that completely tries to vindicate seed oils. Funny enough, this is all top of mind for me because I'm actually going to have a point on this in my next video. You guys are here early. A soybean oil lowers circulating cholesterol levels and coronary heart disease risk, and has no effect on markers of inflammation and oxidation. This is quite the cape for soybean oil. This is quite the report card. This is quite the positive report card for soybean oil. This is saying that soybean oil has nothing to do with raising cholesterol, nothing to do with coronary heart disease risk, has no effect on markers of inflammation and oxidation. None of this? Now, there is merit to this study. The truth is, the head author, Mark Messina, is of the Soy Institute. He is the executive researcher, director researcher of the Soy Institute. So is this biased, and does this have a significant conflict of interest? Absolutely, hands down, yes. You wouldn't make a title like this, let alone provide the following evidence, if you did not have a significant stake or for some reason wanted to defend soybean oil or seed oils in general. So why am I saying that whoever the guy on Joe Rogan is correct? Because if we actually go through this, there is some merit in this study. For one, the whole omega-6 and omega-3 proportion dietary ratio thing, it has been blown over. This is something that may come to shock at some folks, but when you start to look at the literature, omega-6 has been demonized incorrectly. And I haven't made a formal video on this. I've only hinted at it at times, but omega-6 is not as bad as we make it. Do we consume it out of proportion, disproportionately to omega-3? Absolutely. One of the problems that we do attribute to seed oil is the fact that we actually consume so much omega-6 disproportionate to omega-3 is because seed oils are laden with omega-6, but they aren't inherently inflammatory. We just consume them out of proportion. And then you have to consider the fact that seed oils, it takes 7 steps for them to even exist. So seed oils are not a health food because they aren't a whole food. They are by definition processed. Seed oils can exist without heavy processing, right? So that's already a huge turnoff for a lot of people and enough grounds for a lot of people to write them off. But the reason he says that if you look at the empirical evidence and you look at all these other things, that they are not as problematic is because of studies like this one, which tend to focus on the omega-3 and omega-6 ratio. I made a video on seed oils and I tackled one point, and that was oxidation. I did not go deep into inflammation, although I probably mentioned it. I did not go deep into coronary heart disease risk, and I don't think I talked about cholesterol in that video at all. The problem with seed oils is not the molecular structure of the seed oils, or sorry, it's not the impact it has on inflammation or oxidation, specifically the markers, as much as it is the composition of the oil itself. So what it does is it primes our body, and it essentially gives our body the ammunition for oxidation. It creates the grounds for oxidation. So how can we explain that molecularly? The soybean oil composition is mostly polyunsaturated, right? It's mostly polyunsaturated. Polyunsaturated oils present this very unique fatty acid composition. And there's this point in our polyunsaturated fatty acids that is unique to all other fatty acids. And it's this point called the methylene bridge, right? My chemistry folks know exactly what I'm talking about. This point is vulnerable to oxidation. So this point is vulnerable to oxidation. So it isn't the fact that we are necessarily giving our body inflammation, giving our body oxidation. It's more so that we're giving our body the material and to have a greater susceptibility to these things. Because you can't have coronary heart disease without first having oxidation and inflammation, right? And what I'm talking about is the actual lipoprotein, the actual LDL particle that delivers fat throughout the body. That thing becomes oxidized, and that is the trigger point for heart disease risk. So the actual lipoprotein, sorry if it gets a little sciencey, but the actual lipoprotein is composed of fatty acids. These fatty acids are either saturated, monounsaturated, or polyunsaturated. You can barely, you're gonna have to work hard to try and oxidize a saturated fatty acid. Same with mono. But with polyunsaturated fatty acids, they really present this unique susceptibility to oxidation. So we make up when we eat our seed oils, and the amount that we do, we end up making up our lipoproteins. Their membrane ends up being made up of a lot of these polyunsaturated fatty acids. And what did we talk about earlier? The dose makes the poison. So if we just look at soybean oil as is, sure, it's just fat. It makes sense. But at some point, we consume a little bit more than we need to, and we consider the ubiquity of soybean oil, of seed oils, how they're in just about every single restaurant, just about every single fast food, and almost every single packaged food that's in the middle of our grocery stores. You consider in the amount that we eat it, and you start to look at our lipoprotein under a microscope, and you see, our membrane is being composed of these polyunsaturated fatty acids. And then we probably gonna introduce some oxidation at some point through high sugar intake, through a stress, through so many other things that, and plus oxidation is normal. We're just gonna have that on a degree, it's at a small degree at some point. So we end up priming our body for oxidative stress. We end up making these highly susceptible lipoproteins because of the material that we use. And that's what we have to understand about fat. And this goes into the conversation somebody asked about omega-3s earlier. All we're saying is that on paper, sure, you can make the argument that seed oils aren't bad. Of course you can. You can argue that away. But what we have to understand about fatty acids on a molecular level, is that we are giving our body material to use. This goes for omega-3, omega-6, every fatty acid. We're giving our body material to use. More than we would in carbs, more than we would in protein. When we eat fat, it doesn't get, it is going to stay as it is, molecularly speaking, unless otherwise needed, right? So if we eat monounsaturated fatty acids, they're going to stay that way, and our cells are going to be made up of them. If we eat saturated fatty acids, they're going to stay saturated fatty acids, and our cells are going to be made up of them. If we eat polyunsaturated fatty acids, the majority fatty acid that makes up the majority composition of seed oils, our cells are going to be made up of them, and we end up making them highly susceptible to oxidation, which again is the trigger for the problem, the trigger for coronary heart disease, right? So he's right. The evidence shows that. I don't know about the whole right-wing thing. Listen, I told you guys earlier, I can only care about so much. And politics is the last thing I care about. I am not one of the people to talk about politics or anything like that. I wasn't able to see chat as I was talking, but let me pull that up. I don't know what he's talking about with right-wing and all that other stuff. I don't get into that, to be totally honest, but I'm not going to sit here and act like seed oils is a health food. I'm not even going to act like it's a neutral food. You are better off avoiding seed oils. And I have no problem saying that with my chest, knowing what I've read, knowing what I've looked up. And until proven otherwise, those things are guilty. Maybe not on paper because you could explain it away. And I was interested in doing a live stream on breaking that paper down because, again, this does have merit. There's nuance to everything. But I am not into talking about right or left wing. I don't care. I like talking about food and what it does to our body, right? The truth is, even though that seed oils, let's say they were perfectly not as bad as we say. Like, let's say they were actually okay. You're still better off eating some of the higher quality fats that isn't deprived of all organic matter and nutrients, right? Olive oil, high quality olive oil, you can still see some of the the waxes in it because it hasn't been stripped of all of its organic components, right? And I'd much rather eat that and give my body that abundance of nutrients than I would the soybean oil that we laden all of our packaged foods with, right? That's just me, right? And I like to talk about that. So I think he's referring to the carnivore diet, folks, with the right wing comment, with the right wing comment. Interesting. It's not the issue is often when it's the proximity of diet soda, really bad food. That's good input, Vulcan. Yeah. Blue says people talk about left wing and right wing. Why don't we talk about talk about leg, thigh, and breast? Forget politics. Just eat the bird, yo. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah. I guess to be honest, I guess I was a little turned off about the left wing comment because I don't know anything about politics. I'm not gonna lie. I don't spend time in that. I can only care about what's in front of me, and that is research. I have to do the reading because that is what I do, right? This is my job, right? So I don't want to be put into that box because I don't even know what he's talking about, to be honest with you. But I can only talk about what's in front of me in terms of the research. Tony said, in and out 5. Thank you. Is it true that running can lead to further weight gain because it raises cortisol levels and makes you hungrier? What's your own experience? Yes, that is definitely true. If you are interested in going deep on the topic, I recommended the book earlier. It's called The Great Cardio Myth. It's by Craig Ballantyne. The Great Cardio Myth. It goes into that deep. But running is not walking, right? Running is a very unique exercise. Yeah, you're telling the body on a very low level that, well, you got to consider what we're designed to run for. Why are we designed to run? Maybe for sport, right? And maybe to run and get away from danger, right? Essentially, if you don't have the right headspace in running, it could impact your cortisol levels. And then on a very neutral scale, if you aren't thinking about it at all, it can impact your cortisol levels because you have this low input of steady cortisol coming into the blood. And we do know that cortisol inhibits the release of fat in its own way, right? So it has many components. That's just one. But if you're interested in going deeper, but the short and skinny of it is yes, running can absolutely blunt your ability to lose fat. Cardio is not the first recommendation from me personally. What's been my own experience? Yeah, I never ran to lose weight, to be honest. So I don't even know if I could speak on that. Sparky, $10. 27 years ago, I spent a couple of weeks in Argentina and ate grass-fed steak, chock, full of omega-3 every meal, and I felt 15 years younger. It balanced out my American omega-6. Yeah, my American omega-6. Yeah, here in America, it's not that omega-6 is inherently bad. Again, it's not, right? It's essential. We need that. Our body needs these components. It's just that we eat them disproportionately, right? So yeah, that is the truth. Thank you so much, Sparky, for the 10. Mother of Cats, thank you so much for the 5 and your input. Your seed oils video is excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I thought it was fairly comprehensive. If you guys do want to watch that, it's called The Ingredient Taking Out, what did I call it? Industry's favorite ingredient that's slowly killing us, or something like that. The seed oil effect. You'll be able to see it. Yeah. So my goal is to talk about what I come across in research, add conversations, always mention the nuance, broaden perspectives. But the moment I'm wrong, I have no problem admitting that. I have no hesitation to say if I'm wrong. But one thing I always do to, I guess you can say, keep me from being on one side of a fence is I always mention the nuance. So hopefully that speaks to you guys and I'm able to impact you in that way. All right, you kept me on here for another 15 minutes. Thank you so much, In and Out, for coming in and recommending that. That was fun to talk about. I should do more like reactionary content. Maybe that's something I could incorporate for streams and stuff like that. But I'm all interested in learning more and more and building up my vocab on these topics. And like it's still a little early for me, right? It's still a little early. I recognize with my last video, I was getting off into some risky territory talking about vegans, right? Even though I included a lot of nuance, I knew that was risky territory. Reason being is because veganism is close to a religion as you can get without calling it a religion, right? Why? Well, it's based on beliefs, and beliefs are precedent for our actions. So I knew I was getting into a bit of risky business because there's going to be people that want to reach out and debate, and there's going to be some harsh comments and all this other stuff.
But my idea behind it is that there is something to talk about here without us having to be all neurotic about picking a side and being all tribal, right? We don't have to be all tribal about everything, but there is a conversation to be had. Okay. Thank you guys so much. This was a fun stream. It ran long. Where are we at? Almost 2 hours? Yep, over 2 hours. Thank you guys so much. Purple hearts in the chat. Purple hearts in the chat. Thank you, mods, for keeping this chat rocking. Thank you, Pam. Thanks, Naomi. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Purple hearts in the chat. Purple hearts in the chat. The anti-tribal tribe. That's good, Take Cat. I will never be institutionalized. Never. No, that is one of my goals, though. I do want to keep things middle ground as possible. Talk about both sides, perhaps, without going off into the deep end, you know? Purple hearts. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for the donation. Thank you, Vern, for the 10. I appreciate that. Thank you, Sparky. You guys are so kind. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. This stream will go up as a replay. Thanks for the streams, man. I really enjoy them. You got it, Persian. Yes, that's what it's all about. Absolutely. You guys take care. Let's do some movement this Saturday. Let's insert some movement deposits. All right. I'm going to get about y'all way. Take care, y'all.